So you're probably looking at this and thinking, why? Why would you ever? Well, there is actually a story behind this, even what you might call a point. A little while ago, I made a video where I powered an NES from nothing but AA batteries. It worked, but what ended up being arguably more interesting was how, as the batteries ran out of juice, the game started glitching from the low voltage. I've always wanted to redo this experiment because since I didn't see any of this coming, I didn't really record it properly. I just pointed the camera at a monitor which had no sound. So let's do this again, but I don't just want to repeat myself. If we're going to run something off batteries, we can at least do something more interesting than plop it on a table and stare at it for a few hours. Also, I decided to swap out the venerable NES with a SEGA Genesis, just to see how a 16-bit console would handle the punishment. As for what to do, well, you might remember in that video I said there wasn't really much point to this because, unlike a real portable system, you still need a TV of some kind. But that's not necessarily a deal breaker. Portable TVs do exist, in fact they existed even in the 80s. So this time, let's take this outside. We can finally take advantage of literally the reason batteries exist. Speaking of batteries, of course we'll need to make another battery pack. Now, officially, the Genesis Model 2 requires 10 volts, but if you promise not to call the cops, we're gonna run it off 9 instead. I actually usually run it off 9 because 10 volt power adapters are really fucking hard to find. 9 volts is perfectly within tolerances, and the Genesis is gonna step it down to 5 anyway, so I don't know why they chose 10 because it's so much harder to find power adapters for it, but it's fine. 9 will be fine. The next obvious question is how long should we expect this to last? And while the official voltage requirement is slightly different, the amp requirement is pretty much the same as the NES, so I'm actually expecting a fairly similar battery life here, which was roughly an hour and 40 minutes. Now that might not seem like much, and really it isn't, but it's worth noting that SEGA themselves at one point thought that a Genesis on AA's was a really good idea. In 1995, they released the SEGA Nomad, basically a portable Genesis. It required, you guessed it, 6 AA batteries and lasted for about 2 to 3 hours. So it's a little more efficient than this setup, especially since they got a backlit screen in there too, but not by much. Just look at this kid's face when he realized how many batteries it needed. But I digress. With our battery pack done, we're ready to get started. Now we just have to find a remote place to test it. I'm heading to the highest peak in Australia known as Mount Kosciuszko, a place where, not to dox myself, I happen to live pretty close to. At about 2.2 kilometers above sea level, it pales in comparison to the tallest mountains of a lot of other countries, but the plus side of that is that sweaty basement-dwelling nerds like me can actually walk to the top. At the base of the mountain is a ski resort village called Thredbo. This is where I'm driving to, and from here it'll all be on foot. And chairlift. Like I said, sweaty basement dweller here. From the top of the chairlift, it's a 2.5-hour walk to the peak of the mountain. So off I went with the Genesis and a comically large bottle of water. Finally, after 2.5 hours of walking, I reached the summit of Mount Kosciuszko. And much to my dismay, there wasn't a single McDonald's up here. I have no idea what normal people do upon reaching the top of a mountain. I guess they just look around and then walk back down. But I, of course, had something else in mind. This may be the first time a Genesis, or Mega Drive for that matter, has ever been up here, because honestly, why would anyone ever do this? Here's a seat I brought, but it's not for me, it's for what I'm going to be using as a television. Since I don't own a portable TV of my own, I decided the easiest thing to do would be to use my laptop and a USB capture card. The irony, of course, is that a modern laptop like this would have no trouble emulating Genesis games, probably for far longer than this will work. But today, it's just a screen. I powered it on with my definitely genuine Genesis cartridge, and here we go! Now, the fact that it's working is not really a surprise, we've kind of done this before, but the fact that it's enabling gameplay all the way up here manages to kind of amaze me even so. Unfortunately, my laptop screen proved to be not all that bright out here. It's not as bad in person as it looks in camera, but it definitely could be better. Doesn't help that I was stuck with my less good phone camera now since I'd filmed so much of my journey up here that my actual camera's battery had died. Ironic for an experiment centered around batteries running out, but anyway, please excuse the shakiness and the fact that since I don't have a phone tripod, I can't actually play and film at the same time. Best I can do is show you the game playing itself. But I promise you, off camera, it was really nice to relax after all that walking and play some SEGA Genesis. To be honest, I don't know why mountaineers don't do it more often. But eventually I decided it was time to head back down. I wanted to record the batteries dying properly anyway, and I'll have a hard time doing that out here. So, see you back home. Welcome back! Now we can start some proper tests. First we'll see how long it can play before things start going wrong. I tried to play a nice variety of games. Some classics of course, but also some less good games. Overall, I got about an hour of gameplay with nothing going wrong, not counting the 15-20 minutes I played on top of Mount Kosciuszko. The first glitch I noticed was so subtle I didn't even notice it at first. The color white, specifically, became rainbow colored. Other colors were fine, just not white. My guess is that this is a composite encoding issue, since this looks like a very analog distortion. Either that or someone laced my drink. But it's interesting that it seems to almost exclusively affect one color. Or at least that's what I thought at the time. Eventually the whole signal started becoming very yellow. I decided to leave it for about 20 minutes and time-lapse it to see what would happen. Mostly it just got yellower. By the time I started playing again, it was very yellow. But it kept playing without any other noticeable glitches. In fact, I probably got another hour of perfectly fine gameplay that was just tinted yellow. Until finally, at some point, I died. And the game just crashed. Oh boy, here we go. I reset the console and this is what I got. Woo! Alright, here we go. I started playing again, but I just knew something was about to happen. The screen was flickering and yellow as hell. Sure enough, only a few seconds later... Ooh, wow. This is actually kinda cool. I didn't even know Sonic 1 had any error reporting in it. Sure enough, there it is in the disassembly, so I'm sure people who are familiar with the code or have ROM hacked the game have seen this before, but not me. From here onwards, the game wouldn't even load. We'd just get a SEGA logo, sometimes glitched to hell, and then it would throw another error. But guess what? It wasn't over yet. About an hour later, after they'd cooled down, the batteries kept going. And this time, I accidentally produced an actual real-life creepypasta. Oof! And this is the point that Sonic climbs out of the TV to murder your family. Finally, I remembered something very interesting from a GameHut video about Sonic 3D Blast. In it, GameHut, who was the lead developer of the game, explains that one of the tricks he used to pass Sega's approval process was to catch all crashes and send them to a bonus level select screen. This meant that if a player or tester encountered a bug that would ordinarily crash the game would not only keep playing, it would also have a chance to completely refresh and reset everything so that the bug wouldn't cause any lasting issues, all while cleverly looking like something good had actually happened. This resulted in the unintentional feature where you can fuck around with a cartridge and trigger a crash, which then triggers the level select screen. Knowing that the low batteries had kept triggering Sonic 1's error handling code, I wanted to see if we could trigger the level select in 3D Blast as well. Once again, as the batteries died, the graphics got glitchier and glitchier until suddenly... Yeah, look at that! So the game has officially crashed, but has saved itself by jumping somewhere else entirely. Ordinarily, this should work great, but I have a feeling here it might not be enough. I jumped, naturally, to the final fight, but only got a few seconds in until it crashed again, this time resetting, and finally after the logo just hanging. I mean, yeah, it had to end somewhere. Software handling can only do so much for the genuine hardware issue like no power. And with that, we come to a close of playing Genesis with AA batteries. We took it up a mountain and back and generated some pretty cool glitches. Maybe next time I'll get a variable power supply so we can create more without having to chew through so many batteries. Let me know in the comments if that sounds interesting. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys.